Maureen is going to sing from Psalm 1, the Scottish Psalter version, and she'll explain later why she's going to sing that too. So I'll hold the mic for you if you want, because we've just got the one mic. Oh, yeah. Have you got a good voice?
Have I got a good voice? You can tell me that afterwards. What I'm going to say is the reason I have chosen Psalm 1, and that I would like to explain that first. Ian, if you don't mind. Is it Ian? Yeah. Ian. Right, okay. Not Eon as electricity. Okay. When I grew up in school, we used to be taught the Psalms. And every day we would get a verse from the Psalms, and we had to learn this verse. And in fact, I actually had God's word written on my hand many's a time, because I was so afraid I would be asked to do the memory verse. And I used to think, even as a young child, what are we learning all this stuff for? Okay? And this is one of the Psalms that I learned as a very young child from beginning to end. And I know why we were learning them. And I'm so thankful. You won't know this tune, I doubt it very much, but if you do, please feel free to join in. That man hath perfect blessedness, who walketh not astray in counsel of ungodly men, nor stands in sinners' way, but doth in the scorner's chair, and placeth his delight upon God's law, and meditates on his law day and night. He shall be like a tree that grows near, planted by a river, which in his season yields its fruits, and its leaf fadeth never, and all he does shall prosper well. The wicked are not so, but like they are unto the chaff which wind drives to and fro. In judgment therefore shall not stand such as ungodly are, nor in the assembly of the just shall we man appear. For why the way of godly men unto the Lord is known, whereas the way of wicked men shall be quite overthrown. Thank you.
So influencers, maybe you can explain where you've came across that.
Okay. When Ian asked me for a cup of coffee about, 2.5 months ago, or possibly 3 months ago, I thought, nobody phones me and asks me for a cup of coffee without wanting something. And knowing the little that I knew about this gentleman, I thought, But anyway, we had a lovely cup of coffee, and we shared many things about the Lord and how He worked in both of our lives. So that was fine. And then about 2 days later, an email, bing, would I speak at Capstone? Now, I don't normally do this, actually, so I'm very nervous. But if there's ever an opportunity to share the gospel and to share what the Lord has done in my life or in your lives, you should take that opportunity, because what He has done for us is just, the riches is just beyond measure. So I said, yes, I would do it. So here I am, about a fortnight before, thinking, my goodness, this date's coming up. What am I going to be speaking about? And I didn't realize I was getting interviewed at that point. So I thought to myself, I haven't got an actual date as to when my conversion was. I can't tell you it was blah, blah, March, such and such a date. But I started looking back, and I had to go right back to being a young child. And I can remember in school, for instance, the teachers that I absolutely loved, they were Christians. I didn't know what a Christian was at that point. I knew they were churchy people, but I had no concept whatsoever about what Christianity really meant. And so I thought, yeah, I'm going to talk about influencers, because they influenced me in my early days, although I wasn't converted till into my 20s. But then that was milling about in my head, and I was walking through the sitting room a couple of days later, and the television was on, and this presenter was talking about Instagram and how it was one of the greatest influencers out there at the moment, for good and for bad. I thought, oh, there's that word, influencers. I thought, yeah, okay, influencers. And it was as if it was confirmed that I would talk about influences. So,
tell us a wee bit about some of the influencers, and then lead us up to the time you just found yourself going to the Free Presbyterian Church in Hilton, yeah? I remember, I'll give you this one. I think you told me that you turned up in a Mini, and I thought, a mini skirt, and you said yes, and a mini car. But influencers up to then, because I think the people who met you at the door there were also influenced in your life.
As I said, the teachers were very much influencers when I was young. I had the likes of Gregor Ross and Peggy Ross, Jessie MacDonald, Miss McCoosh, Neil MacArthur. That's just to name a few of them. They were Christians, but there was something special about them. They took a great interest in you. And in Hilton of Cardwell Junior Secondary School at that time, we started every morning with assembly, where there was a Bible reading, there was a singing, and there was prayer. And we finished the day with Bible class. And we learnt different portions of the Bible, and we worked through bits of the Bible with the different stories that were in it. So these people had a great influence, and I actually remember the very first time I sang in public was for Miss Watson, Miss Marion Watson. She was our primary 7 school teacher, and she used to take Scripture Union. And she asked me to go along with her to Invergordon and sing a song. And it was a gospel song. Well, it was a hymn. And when she told me what hymn it was, I was actually quite chuffed, because it was a hymn that my dad always sang. And he wasn't a Christian at that point anyway. But I used to hear him singing it because Elvis Presley sang it.
What song was it?
Oh Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the works thy hands hath made, I see the stars, I hear the mighty thunder, thy power and might, the universe displayed. So that was the song that Miss Watson asked me to go along to Invergordon. I had my guitar, sang that song, and I can't go into that parish church without thinking about Miss Watson and the first time that I sang publicly like that. She was a great influence. She was a gentle, gentle person. And I can remember at the end of the school year, we used to have to tidy up the classrooms, and she would ask for volunteers to help her. And of course, I'd put my hand up along with some of the other girls, and we were tidy. I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but I will ramble all night. And we were tidying up the classroom, and we had put the plants away to where they were. We'd polished floors. We'd done everything, and it looked really smart, the classroom. And she said to the other girls, she says, "Girls, you're worth your weight in gold." And she turned around to me and she says, "Anne-Marie, you're the salt of the earth." And I went home and I thought, salt, they're gold and I'm salt. I was really quite offended. I didn't like to say anything, but I learned later that salt's very precious as well. But they were great influences in my life. And then I would say you hit your teenage years. And but by the time I hit my teenage years, I was playing badminton for Scottish schools. I was also playing hockey for Scottish schools. I was singing in a band. I was dating. And of course, all these things came in. And I had been going to church. I went along to the Abbey. I was in the Abbey Singers, and I enjoyed that side of church life. And I would go to the youth fellowships and different things like that. But when all these other influences came in, something had to give, and I'm afraid it was my church life. But at that time, I had no concept of Christianity or how important trusting and believing in Jesus was. So, going from 15 to 17, everything was just higgledy-piggledy, and that was fine. I got married. I was about 17 and a half, young. We're still married, poor soul. And we got married in March 72, and we had great plans that we bought a plot, we were going to build a house, we were going to do all these things before a family would come along. However, Olivia arrived in 1973, and
was she early or late?
No, she was pretty well on time, but that's the only time she was on time. Ever since then, she's been running late. But of course, all our plans, and that's the thing, is we can have as many plans as we like, but if it's not in God's plan, then that's it. So everything was honky-dory. And then I hit, I don't know, I wasn't unhappy, I wasn't discontented or anything. I just woke up one day and I said to William, I'm going to church. Now, he wasn't surprised at that, because he knew I used to go to church, but he thought I was going back to the Abbey. And I says, no, I'm going down to your church, which was the Free Presbyterian Church in Hilton. He says, oh, well, he says, you'll be in a while. But I never thought anything about it, so got dressed, off down, and pulled up in the car park. And this is where the next set of influencers really in my life started. And the main two really were standing on that doorstep as I arrived. It was Roderick Mackenzie and Hugh Mackenzie, two young men, and were standing on the doorstep. And years later, they told me the conversation they had, and it went something like this. Is that Geordie Oliver's daughter that's just driven up there? And I think it is. No, it can't be. Aye, it is her. And then I get out of the car. Do you think she's coming this way? Oh, no, she'll be coming this way. I think she is, you know. So I'm walking across the road. I have a Mia Farah haircut, which is very little hair. I'm a mini skirt, which is a mini skirt. I arrived in a mini, and I'm walking across the road with this clogs on, which have platforms about 6 inches, which were white with red, yellow, and navy stars. So I had a big yellow floppy hat to match the stars. So I'm walking across the road, and I must have just been an absolute culture shock, now that I look back on that. But they warmly greeted me, and off I went into church, and I sat beside William's aunt, Jessie Clark. Jessie probably had a fit, but never mind. I sat there, and I listened. And I actually listened. And then, when the service was over, and we all started filing out, I was given such a warm welcome by everybody. And I remember Annie McCangus in particular just about smothered me. And I could hardly breathe because she had a big fur coat on. And but she just was so delighted. In fact, there was tears coming down her eyes. Maybe it was the way I was dressed, I don't know. But anyway, it was a lovely welcome that I'd got. So I went home, and Will says, how did you get on? I says, they were lovely. It was lovely. And he says, have you been back? I says, yes, I'm going to go back. And I started going back to the church each Sunday. And then what I was hearing from the pulpit, it was Reverend John Nicholson that was in the pulpit. And at first, I sort of feared him a little bit because he was a fire and brimstone type of preacher. And then, not only that, I felt, how does he know I'm thinking this? And how does he know that's happened to me? And how does he know this? Who's telling him these things? Because I haven't told anybody of this. And I realized that something was happening. And it took months, really, of sitting under the preaching, and I just wanted to hear more. I wanted to learn more. For instance, Roderick and Flora and Hugh and Mary must have been fed up with me because I was always at their door asking questions, in for a cup of tea. What's this? What's that? I don't understand that. That's contradicting this and that's contradicting that. And they were so patient with me. And actually, then the other brother, Kenneth, and his wife Janet came to live in the area, and I was great friends with them because I worked for Janet for a wee while, and then I finally worked for Kenneth as a PA. And having these people who have so much grounding in the gospel, and it was great because I felt comfortable to ask questions. And I eventually even worked for William Mackenzie. He was when I worked for Christian Focus. So these four brothers were very influential in my life, to be perfectly honest. And I'm grateful for them and their wives. And in fact, I can remember when I made that commitment to trusting in the Lord. As I said, I can't give you an exact date, but I can remember walking home from church one evening after hearing a sermon, and it's as if everything was new. Everything had sort of changed. Can you remember the advert for Hush Puppies? You put this pair of shoes on and you walked on air. I felt as though I only had 500 yards to go, but I actually didn't feel my feet were hitting the ground. The grass looked greener, the sky was bluer, the sea was beautiful, birds were singing. I was thinking, what's happening? And I feel that was an experience that was given to me, an experience of contentment at knowing and being assured that I had committed my life to the Lord. And I would love to be able to stop my testimony there and say, not a problem after that. Unfortunately, within a year or so, I was backsliding. And I can't explain how subtly all that started. And it was a period of my life that I feel totally ashamed of, and I'd let the Lord down really badly. Not just the Lord, I'd let my own family down, my husband down, I'd let everybody that loved me down, and these people who had been such an influence as well. And in fact, I was listening to a song there, I was telling Olivia about it. I heard it just a few weeks ago, and it's sort of, it's when the best of me is barely breathing, when I'm not somebody I believe in, hold on to me, hold on to me. I just wanted the Lord to hold me. I went through probably about 18 months of just being in total wilderness. I was not a happy person. I just didn't know what to do, and I was afraid to go back to church because I'd let so many people down. But I got to the stage of saying to myself, I have nowhere else to go. I have nowhere else to go. It's only God that would forgive me. It's him that I sinned against most of all. And I had to go back to the Lord and ask him to help me. And it was it was very humbling, but it was a very precious time as well, because I learned that I needed to hold on to God as well. And that it's sort of like that, you've all heard the story about the piece of coal in the fire, and if it falls out of the fire and it's not pushed back in, the glow will go away and it'll just become a cinder and it's grey and it's dead. And that's what had happened to me. I had gone away, I'd stopped reading my Bible regularly. I wasn't praying, I was probably praying selfishly. I'd stopped the midweek meeting, and sometimes I would say on a Sunday night, oh, I'm too tired and there's a good film coming on. So it's things like that, that it was a slippery slope. But I learned that I actually needed to be in that fire with the Lord all the time. I needed to be in touch with him. And so although it was a horrible time, it was a very, I would say it was a good time for me, because it's made me realize if I missed a few days of I don't know, does anybody else do, but I'm going to confess just now, I'll open my Bible and I do a quick reading, and I actually think, I've done my reading the day. And I haven't even thought about what I read. If I'd met somebody at the bottom of the garden and they said to me, Maureen, what have you just read just now? I wouldn't remember. So it's like these warning signs. When I start behaving like that, I think, stop it, because you know it's a slippery slope. And being a Christian isn't easy. It isn't easy, and we have to be obedient and do what the Lord is asking of us, and that's staying close to him.
Thank you. I think my mic's working, so you can hold on to yours.
Oh.
So the Christian life isn't easy. I'm not sure if you'd be able to share a situation in your own life that wasn't easy, and I think if you can, it would help others.
Yeah, there's probably a couple of instances in my Christian life which it was very challenging and it was very difficult. The first really was when our son, Willie, he was 21 and he was involved in a car accident and he died. And that knock on the door at 11 o'clock at night, it was so stark. And when you opened the curtains and you saw two policemen, you knew something was awful. My husband immediately knew it was Willie. It's as if he was told it was Willie. And that was a horrendous time for us. It was, I did ask God why. I couldn't understand. I did ask God why. I didn't blame God, but I said to him, why, 21, he had a 10-month-old baby, and I just couldn't, things just wouldn't add up in my mind. And it was a horrific time, not just for me. It was a horrific time for the whole family, my mum and dad, for the girls, Olivia and Laura, and the wider family circle, because we were all very close. So it was a real hard time. And but I can remember quite clearly a few months in, there was one night when I was just, every night we would end up crying. There was no doubt. You cry at the drop of a hat, because all of a sudden it was so real. And I even remember following somebody in the Eastgate Centre, because he smelt like Willie. He had a Boss aftershave on, and he had a leather jacket, and he was tall. And I found myself following him, and I had to think, oh, this is getting ridiculous. So I remember I was on my knees at the bottom of the bed, and I would like to say I go on my knees to pray all the time, but I don't go on my knees to pray. But this one sent me to my knees, and I just was sobbing my heart out. I says, Lord, if you can't tell me why, help me accept it, because I have to have peace. And it was just so amazing that I got that inner peace. I still don't know why and I will not know until the day of when I meet the Lord himself, and there'll be a reason for it all. But some of the reason, I think, is that over the years I have met so many people now who have lost their children, and I haven't got wise words of wisdom for them. I haven't. But what they do know is that I know what they're feeling. And just putting your hand around somebody and just saying, if you want to talk, just talk. But if you just want to sob. It's difficult.
Yeah.
And then the second one then was, and she's here today, is Olivia. I can remember about 5 years ago now it was, or just slightly more than 5 years ago, herself and her sister Laura walked into the sitting room. And I just came out of the kitchen and I said, hi, but I just took one look at the faces and I thought, oh my goodness, what's wrong? And then she told me that she had cancer. And it was just, and I think Laura was crying even more than the rest of us. Because the two girls are very, very close sisters. And I remember thinking to myself, I've got to hold myself together here, because there's a journey now. We've got a journey ahead of us, and we were trying to stay positive on everything. But I'll be honest, how Olivia got through it all, it's only the Lord that took her through it all, because she had a lot of treatments and ups and downs, and oh man, it was quite a time for us. And you say, oh, that's the only time you go to the Lord, is you're asking him for this and this and this, and you're always asking him for things. But we were so thankful that the Lord was keeping her all that time. And I was so thankful that she had already committed her life to the Lord. And that in itself was a great comfort to us. So these were two difficult times in our lives. And I'm saying in our lives because William's my husband and we're one. He hasn't committed his life to the Lord yet. But he's the husband that the Lord gave me, and we just go through things together.
Thank you for that. But you've had a cause to celebrate in the last couple of months, a few weeks?
We had that 10-month-old baby. Will now be 24 in October. He got married a few weeks ago, young Will, and we're all so proud of him. He really is a fine young lad, and I'm hoping that he'll come back to church, because I had him in church every week until he hit his teens. And I hit the teen years, and you know that I went away for a few years in my teen years. And so I'm hoping that he'll come back, because he used to present. That's another influence there. Roderick Mackenzie made himself and Jason, this other young lad, present in the church. And they would do it, no problem at all, which was lovely. It was lovely. And yeah.
There was a lovely photo of, I think, on your Facebook, you dancing with young Will
Oh, yes.
at the wedding.
I managed a few barrels round the floor, but then I was pretty well jiggered, to be perfectly honest. I saw the day, but it's night time now.
So, you've now, just to kind of close the evening off, you've spoken very well, very movingly, but I didn't know you at all till very recently. And it was just when I was down at the Seaboard Village with the whole thing with the John Ross exhibition and the Fisher Folks Festival and all that. But talking of influencers, I think you've learned from those who have influenced you. I saw you in action over that weekend, and although it was secular settings, you managed to get the gospel into just about every conversation or every presentation or every discussion. So can you tell us just a wee bit about what you're doing now, and if that is indeed the case that you've learned from those who influence you?
Yeah, the Seaboard's really very, very special to me. I think my name is now synonymous with the Seaboard, but I think it really stemmed from my Auntie Jessie, who was one of the teachers that was in school, Jessie MacDonald, and she wrote the book Down to the Sea, which was all about the social life of the Seaboard villages. Now, Auntie Jessie was a Christian as well, and she had a strong walk in faith, and I admired that. And I used to pop in and have a cup of tea with her in her porch, and we would blather about things about the villages and the way of life in the villages. And she told me to stay focused, trust in what I believed in. And she says, you'll not always be popular, but just stick with it. And yeah, she was a great influence, and I feel that I've been in meetings where, you know, you have to stand up and say, well, no, I don't really think that's proper for us down here. I don't think that's right. And but the thing is, when you become a Christian, you can't just decide to take the Lord in and out of different parts of your life. He's there all the time. So, I mean, if I go into a meeting, he's with me. I mean, I think people in HIE and Highland Council must think I'm off the trolley at times, because I'll say, oh, that's divine intervention there. That's, you know, and we should be thankful to the Lord for this and thankful to the Lord for that. And they're probably thinking, well, I've just given her a few £1,000. Let's give it to her. And I thought, no. But yeah, you can't take the Lord in and out as you choose. If you're going to live the Christian life, he's there 24/7.
Yeah. So just a wee bit about the John Ross Centre. John Ross, for those who don't know, maybe tell us in a minute or so. But there's a chair in the John Ross Centre, and you called it Roderick's Chair. And as everyone, or most of the people in here, if I hear a good idea, I nick it. So it was really your idea, my story. But the first person to do my story was yourself. But give us your vision of what you want to do with my story. And
well, what I would love to be able to do with the storyteller's chair is be able to invite a similar situation as this, is people who maybe have they may be doctors, they may be just farm workers or whatever it is. It's how they, that's what you're talking to me just now. It's how I take the Lord into my workplace, my day place, and how you have that relationship with the Lord. And just to be able to tell these stories. But we're working on a program for doing something similar to what we're doing here. And hopefully we'll get a few people from all walks of life, because that's the beauty with Christ. He's not looking for any station in life. There's no, you can be from no education at all to being a professor. And the Lord's not picking you because of what you can give him, because you can't give him anything, really. At the end of the day,
You had a big celebration at the Jubilee, and you discovered in that, I think, the Lord Lieutenant also had a faith.
Yes, it was very interesting at the Jubilee, the Diamond Jubilee celebrations, and I was speaking to the Lord Lieutenant, and I can't remember the verse that she had that morning, but in all the malaise of us trying to organise everything, she says, I had such an encouraging verse this morning when I was doing my reading. And I thought, you see, I had that inkling that she was a Christian. I had that inkling. I haven't had the conversation with her, but you don't do your morning reading without actually caring. Mm-hmm. And so I was hoping to maybe get her down. Now, if we're recording this, cut this bit out, because she doesn't know anything about it at the moment. And you're not nabbing her before me.
Great. So, I think since Olivia's arrived, would it be appropriate for the two of you to sing Paul's song, but it's based on the words of the reading, 1 Corinthians 13. Yeah, and then after that I'll thank you formally, and we'll have a cup of tea next door.
That'll be good.
So Olivia, are you okay to come forward? Are you there? Oh, I'll give it a minute or two. Anyone got any questions for me, Maureen, while we're waiting?
Only if the answer is a yes or a no.
Anyone?
That's right. Yes. I know. It's so, when I was young, I used to, to thee I lift my soul, my God, I trust in thee. And I was saying, what's all this about? Verse after verse and portions of the Bible. What good is this? And, you're always complaining sometimes. And I mean, I'm sure most of you learned the catechism when you were in school as well. It's a great little thing, the catechism. And so, they're almost like the foundations. Although you're not realising, I didn't realise it, but they've stood me in such good stead having that. And I'm seeing Duncan there, which reminds me, I think you were Free Presbyterian Church as well, Duncan. The teaching that I got in the Free Presbyterian Church, because we eventually split and we became the Associated Presbyterian, but I can't fault the teaching that we had, that I had in the Free Presbyterian Church, because I remember years ago when I was in the Abbey, do you know this? I didn't realise the importance of the Trinity. I knew God was the Father, I knew Jesus was the Son, and the Holy Spirit didn't really come into much. And it was the teaching, it was the good sound teaching when you realised that there was God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. And we need to be filled with the Holy Spirit, and we need to be asked to be filled with the Holy Spirit every single day. So, yeah.
Well done. Well, you are certainly a great witness for your Lord, so I would like to ask the congregation to put their hands together and thank you for sharing your story. And have you still got the miniskirt?
Have I still got the minister?
Miniskirt.
I was going to say, well, I'm not going into the ministry anyway, I'll tell you that. No, it's about 5 sizes too small. And I don't mean that way, I mean that way.
So on you go. Do you want to come up here, Olivia?
If I spoke with tongues of men, spoke with tongues of angels, if I could not speak with love, I'd just be cymbals clanging, and everyone would hold their ears. They wouldn't want to listen. Not a soul would want to hear the racket I was making. If I spoke in prophecy, the fate of many nations, and if I knew all mysteries, the secrets of creation, and had I all the faith I need, enough for mountains moving, but had no love to carry me, what good would it do me? Love is kind, it suffers long, it isn't proud nor jealous. Love, it won't remember wrongs, and love will never fail us. It hopes, believes, and bears all things, will never be defeated. More than faith and more than hope, love, it is the greatest. Knowledge, prophecy will fade, tongues will all fall silent, but love, it changes everything. It's solid and defiant. I know it's hard to see these things. It's through a dark glass draining. But when we're standing face to face, the truth won't need explaining. Love is kind, it suffers long, it isn't proud nor jealous. Love, it won't remember wrongs, and love will never fail us. It hopes, believes, and bears all things, will never be defeated. More than faith, more than hope, love, it is the greatest. More than faith, more than hope, love, it is the greatest.